When I think of Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, Denzel Washington, The Rock, to name a few, I always think of those people as class acts. And it brings us on to success principle number 54, which is about class acts. It's about people that you just see and they just have this charm, this way of being. They have these value systems that they kind of live by. They hold people to a high standard. And you can't help but really be in awe of them and feel like if they was in your circle, you'd also play at a higher level too. And today's class act success principle is all about doing that. It's all about you becoming the highest version of yourself, just like the rest of the success principle. But this one specifically is talking about being that intentional person that intentionally focuses on being a class act. Now, I could riff for a while about this, and I don't want to kind of go off tangent, so let me just focus back on the success principle itself and what Jack Canfield really means by class act. So he models people like Dan Sullivan, who is a coach that he follows and normally goes on to his programs. And Dan Sullivan says, in every society, there are human benchmarks. Certain individuals whose behavior becomes a model for everyone else, shining examples that others admire and emulate. We call these individuals class acts. Now, you might have people that you see in society as class acts. You might look at them and be like, wow, they're profound, they're exceptional what they do, they're exceptional how they carry themselves, they're graceful, whatever it is. There's parts of people that we like to role model because we see them as people of excellence. And so this success principle is all about making sure that you are holding yourself to that level for the greater good. So there's a few tips that Dan Sullivan has identified to make you see, to basically embody the characteristics of a class act. So the first one, this is in no particular order, is to live by your own high standards. So when you think of your core values, when you think of you living in alignment of those core values, is it something that you do automatically, or is it something you have to think about? Is it so embedded in your everyday now that you don't even have to think about it? You just know your core values and you live by them. Or do you sometimes feel out of alignment and you realize that you're not living your core values? So that's where there's a disconnect. Whatever it is, it's always good to, I guess, evaluate your standards. If you're finding yourself getting agitated by those around you and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to come from a place of judgment, you've also got to check whether it's not necessarily about judgment, it's about the standard that you hold for yourself and the people that are around you, and making sure that you're not almost going down to a level when you should be bringing them up, because it's not for you to constantly drag along people with you, but it is for you to uphold your standards and create those boundaries so that you're not constantly being drained by people that are really out of alignment with those standards that you hold for yourself, those standards that you hold for people around you as well. So it's very important that you actually have these standards kind of clearly articulated somewhere so you can reflect back on them. So do you have that? And so class acts liberate themselves by establishing personal standards of thinking and behavior that are more demanding and exacting than those of conventional society. They're consciously chosen, established, and applied. So you got to see it like society says, maybe the government has got some really low benchmark. Like perhaps, for me, I know that spitting is disgusting. I find it gross. And I don't hang around with people that spit on the floor. I just don't do it. That's my personal standard. It's not a thing of, it's a negotiable. I just don't do it. And so in society, that can be looked at as frowned upon, but some people still do. I remember watching an 8-figure coach. He was on video talking about how much he makes, how much everyone else are not very smart because he's smart, and then he was spitting and he was smoking, and I just thought, I can't. Even though we're not bros, we're not friends, I watch you, I follow you, I can't be following you anymore because I've got a personal standard. It doesn't matter how rich you are, because let's face it, wealth isn't about how much money you've got in the bank. It's about how you behave. Wealth is a persona. It's an embodiment. It isn't about the money. It's about the mindset as well. And so I can't lower my standard because I believe somebody's richer and wealthier than me, just because it doesn't align with me. And so you've got to think: are you lowering your standards because you think that there's other people around you that perhaps have got more money in the bank and they're behaving in a certain way, so you feel that's okay? What's your personal standards? What do you uphold? What do you believe in? Now, there's going to be things that we agree on and we don't agree on, and that's okay. Again, personal standards. I remember watching a coach talk about Black Lives Matter on his social media feed after maybe 3 or 4 weeks of the incident, that latest incident happening. And there were some things in there that I didn't necessarily agree with. Again, my own personal standards. So we've got to learn what we are willing to kind of compromise on, and what's our minimum benchmarks. What are the things that are going to help us to stay high vibrational and to stay in integrity as well? Because there's a really nice example in this book, actually. It talks about if you was to invite the Dalai Lama to your house, maybe President Obama to your house, you would clean up, right? If that was the case, then why is it that you're happy to sit in a place that isn't clean enough for you just to be in? Why are you changing your standards higher because of other people that are around you? Surely that you should be like, I'm changing my standards because this is the minimum benchmark that I expect. I'm not waiting for somebody to tell me how higher to go. I know my minimum's here. So just imagine yourself always inviting Barack Obama around if that's going to help you. Knowing, or the Queen, if that's your thing. Knowing that the standard that you're holding for those people in terms of how you would possibly communicate and behave is the standards you should be holding to yourself regardless, even when nobody's watching. Because it's not about outside influences giving us validation, it's about internal validation and validating yourself. And so we've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that's what that really, really means. I said really too many times probably. So that's one of the ones. Maintain dignity and grace under pressure. So it's very easy. It's probably easier to blow and explode when things happen and it gets stressful. But it might be a bit more challenging to use that emotional intelligence. It might be a bit more challenging to pause, breathe, look at the situation, and then take an action. So being under pressure is going to change you physically. There's going to be certain chemicals in your body that's going to change. So in order for you to be a class act, it's all about how can you put tools in place so that whenever a stressful situation comes up, you know exactly how to respond rather than react. That's important, right? We don't want to be always fluctuating up and down when a crisis happens, because that doesn't help us. It doesn't serve us. And I'm not saying you have to be emotionless, but what I'm saying is the stress doesn't help you either. Name me one person that you know that says, I love stress. Stress makes me awesome. Stress makes me to be at my best. I love blowing up and exploding and constantly shouting at people when I'm stressed. Said no one. So we've got to learn on a consistent basis that there's going to be some hurdles in life. What's the best way to respond? What tools can we use? Maybe that's breathing. I was learning about rebirthing the other day. Such an interesting concept. Now, I think it was banned in a few states, but the whole point of it is dealing with the trauma that you might have gone through childbirth, or being born, so that it was a much more calmer experience. And then I saw this episode of This Is Us, and it was like, isn't it funny that somebody said, isn't it funny that the one thing that we're asked to do, that it comes naturally to us, is breathe, that we forget how to do it. And it reminded me that the umbilical cord was around my neck when I was born. I was born in breech position. And so breathing for me has always been challenging. But that doesn't stop me from doing it. It doesn't stop me from making a decision to understand that when I don't breathe because I feel stressed, that I should remember to breathe. And it sounds really simplistic. You're probably thinking, what? But things that you find really easy to combat, to overcome, some other people will find it challenging, and vice versa. So again, what we've got to do is become the highest versions of ourselves. Understand that compassion will go a long way for not only yourself, but for other people that you're going to come across that might not necessarily be there yet. So this is taking longer than I expected. So I'm obviously Success Principle. Get the book. This is principle number 55. I'm going to just share with you a couple of more, and then I'm going to summarize. Okay, so strengthen the integrity of all situations. What does that mean? Class acts individuals are always establishing and achieving larger goals that require them to constantly grow and develop, as well as add increasing value to the world. So let's talk about impact. Whenever you're doing something, whenever you've got a goal, how is it going to impact the rest of the world in a really meaningful way? Think of it like that. So the goal becomes bigger than you, and then it becomes more meaningful to you, and then you know it's bigger than you, so you're more consistently focused on it. So strengthen the integrity of every situation. Okay, there's another one I thought, which one would be most interesting and valuable to you? I'm just guessing here, but operating from a larger inclusive perspective. So compassion, inclusivity, right? So everyone's diverse. Diversity is the thing. We live in a diverse world. Being inclusive means including everybody into the conversation. Being human in the midst of conflict. We've seen from the last couple of weeks, depending on when you're watching this, that some people have decided that inclusivity is an option when it's not. It's mandatory in order for us to live in this world. And I know some people say we are all equal, but that's not the case if you look at the stats. We hope that we're all equal, but the way we're treated as human beings doesn't show that. So inclusivity is something that has to be intentionally done. It's not like, we have unconscious biases, and we have to really, really own that unconscious biases come up when it comes to the way we make decisions. If we're not even aware of these unconscious biases, and then somebody challenges you, it's like, oh, I wasn't even aware of that happening. That's why you can't just go in and say that everybody's all equal, because you've got to be aware of the biases that come up. The biases that come up again and again and again. Even in corporates, when there's these policies to protect people still can be non-racist stroke racist, and prejudiced and all these other things. So it's very important that you don't just do the minimum, which is the benchmark of, I'm going to invite someone to the conversation, I'm going to invite them to the table. They will already have a seat at the table, and that seat at the table will have a microphone so you can hear them. That's how inclusive it has to be. It can't just be, oh, everyone gets to be heard. Well, there's some people that, like the other day I was in a voluntary group, and I noticed that when one member spoke, they was listened to, they got they were seen and they was heard. And then another member spoke and they were kind of ignored. Now for me, that doesn't spark being inclusive. That sparks preferential treatment. And that's not fair. And I've got a big bugbear about fairness and justice, and I can't stand it. And I know some people say, yeah, everyone has that. it's about your actions, right? How many times have you been in the community, maybe helping people that you know have been treated unequal, actually rise up, actually have equal equity, have more equity, knowing that equality is just not enough. I could go on for a while, but let's face it, some parts of the way the system is built is just plain wrong. You just look at the stats. If you are going to be a class act, you have to be that person that also helps to shatter those glass ceilings for everybody. Can't just be for the elitist few, it has to be for everybody. Has to be for the people that you see as they're struggling. They haven't got the same rights. Whether it's written down on paper, it's not always implemented. So being a class act isn't just about maybe doing things in front of people and letting them know you've done it. It's sometimes those hidden things. If you've ever watched Hidden Figures, amazing women that have done amazing things for the world, and they wasn't getting the recognition until a film came out and they was mentioned. Here's my point in all this. You have the power to completely change the world by changing you first, then being that role model so that other people can see, yes, I want some of that. I love that standard. I love the way that person's behaving and moving, even behind closed doors. That's what being a class act's all about. So again, read the book, go grab it. I'm going to put the link somewhere below this video so that you can grab the book, go a bit more deeper. This class act stuff's a habit. There's going to be methodologies you're going to have to implement in order for you to see changes in the way that you're behaving emotionally and physically, to be honest, because it's class acting your health as well. We're all here, we're all on a journey. Nobody's here saying we're perfect, but the whole point is this is success principles. You signed up for being successful, and this is part of that process. There are people that you deem successful, you meet them, and there was just something off about them. And so this is about you being completely true to yourself, honoring who you are, showing up as you are, and then being no offness about you, just being you, a class act. So thank you for watching. Thumbs it up, subscribe, comment, let me know what big takeaway you got from this, even if it's my big hand. The success principle has to get from where you are to where you want to be. It's all about moving you forward. This is about successful relationships, this element of what we're doing in, I think, from 50. We're going to be moving on to something else afterwards, success and money, so stay tuned. And so there's going to be like at least another 10 about success and money. So thank you for watching. It's been a ball. And I will see you on the next video.